Hello, everybody. It's December the 27th. Uh, the year is 2020. Today, something crossed my mind, and I thought I will share my thoughts with all of you. Uh, it's a subject of meditation. What is meditation? I mean, what's the myth and the mystery surrounding this subject? So, I'll briefly share my thoughts and what I come to understand, what I've learned. Uh, Hopefully, it will appeal to you as well. Meditation. What is meditation? In a nutshell, meditation is a state in which your thoughts comes to a standstill state. Uh, if your thoughts are still, you are in a state of meditation. But does it really happen during your lifespan? Almost never. Unless you deliberately, if you work towards it and you practice and achieve that state. Now that's meditation. So, why is it that thoughts are never in standstill state? Because our thoughts are rampant. Uh, it's it's random, rampant, and we may observe silence in the outside, but our minds are never silent. Perhaps the only time they go into total silence is when you when your life comes to an end. But when you are alive and kicking, can you attain that state of total silence, the inner state of silence? Uh, yes, there are people who have achieved that state, and they all struggle to articulate that experience, verbalize that experience, uh, because it they somewhat concede that experience cannot be verbalized, or it does not fall into the thought realm, because it's a thought still state, and that cannot be described in human languages. Anyway, so let's get back to meditation. What is meditation? Uh, so we have to start with our minds. Uh, our minds are rampant. Uh, they think non-stop, uh, and more than anything, our minds are said to our during our lifespan. Our minds are trapped in three states of consciousness. What I mean, three, namely wakeful state. Like right now, I'm wakeful. I'm talking, and you're listening, and your mind is processing the information, filtering it, interpreting it, and then you uh, come to a conclusion or understanding, and it becomes you form your opinions. Now that's the whole thinking process. Everybody who can think invariably will end up with an opinion. Like someone said, opinions. Everybody has opinions. Some have very strong opinions that are not supported by evidence or rationale, and we have to we have to call them opinionated. And whether you are a very intelligent person, or if you are a person who is totally incapable of understanding anything, regardless, you will have an opinion on any given thing, any given subject. Uh, so, an uninformed person will have a certain opinion, and an educated will have another opinion, and an experienced person will interpret differently. So, opinions vary. Now, the three states of consciousness I was talking about are, namely, the wakeful state. Like I said, right now we are in wakeful state, and then we go end of the day we go to sleep. That's the next state of consciousness. uh, go into sleeping state. You're sleeping. And then in the sleeping state, you lapsed into another state of consciousness. It's called dreaming state. Uh, and So, in essence, our lifespan revolves around these three dimensions, so to speak, the states of consciousness. But are there, oh, by the way, there are the other states, like if someone goes into a coma state, or if someone hits you on the head with a hard object and you go into an unconscious state. These are all related to the third state, said to be related to the third state, the sleeping state and the dreaming state. So, in essence, these are the three main states of consciousness. Uh, what holds true in one state of consciousness is said to be not true in another state of consciousness. For instance, you are sleeping, you're wakeful, you're thinking, deducting, you form your opinions, you're filtering information, you agree, disagree. Okay, that's when you're wakeful. You go to sleep, you're resting, your brain goes to rest, but still the cognitive scientists say it just that's a process, and information is processed even during the sleeping state. It becomes random and becomes dreams anyway. So you go into dreaming state. uh, s- let's say in that state of consciousness you have a nightmare. Let's say someone is chasing to kill you and you're running for your life. Yeah, adrenaline is pumping, cortisol, all these chemicals are just going uh, berserk, or rampant, and just and suddenly you snap out of that state of conscious. You wake up from your sleep, your dream, and you let out a deep breath. Oh my god, you're profusely sweating, but now, and you, for a moment, you think, how silly of me to be so scared of this, and it just everything looks silly because it's unreal. So what, but in that state of consciousness, it was true. The fear you felt, your blood pressure goes up, you know your adrenaline keeps pumping, and heartbeat, everything is real. But when you switch to the other state, you come back to the wakeful state, you laugh at the whole thing. It's just ridiculous. Well, why was I so scared? So what holds true in one state of consciousness is not true in another state of consciousness. That's so the mystics say everything we do in our lives revolves around these three states of consciousness. And if you elevate yourself to the higher states of consciousness by way of meditation, everything you did, everything you believed, everything your convictions, everything, when you look back from the higher state of consciousness, looks ridiculous. Oh my god, I wasted all my life, right? This is what I believe. This is what you just, it's like that dream and the nightmare. So that in essence what meditation is all about. And See, they say, in essence, meditation is total silence, silence, and you may be outwardly observing silence, but your thoughts are running rampant. Like the Persian mystic Jalaluddin Rumi once said, silence is the language of God, and all else is poor translation. Now, uh, so interesting statement by the enlightened mystic Rumi. So silence. Silence is very powerful. I'm talking about the inner silence, if you can achieve that. And You elevate yourself to a higher state of uh, higher cognitive state, self realization. Uh, and so it's That said, there are different methods prescribed to meditate. Going without going into in greater details, some recommend. Uh, you see, if a child is restless and running around and being totally acting chaotic, so you call the child and give him a task. Okay, you do this for the next 2 hours to the best of your ability. Okay, you get this reward. Okay, but what you're going to do? Okay, this is what you're going to do. So child sits in a place, and he will be busy doing it because he's expecting the reward, and he becomes the well-behaved child because his mind is totally occupied in one task. So meditation is getting the mind to mind is rampant. See, it's the battle between the will and mind. The will says be still, the mind goes rampant. The more the will commands, the mind goes against it. Like, for instance, you want to go to sleep, and you have your school assignment, uh, and you want to study till 3 o'clock in the morning. And you tell your mind, okay, tonight I'm going to stay up and study till 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to finish all these assignments. That's when you will be overpowered by sleep more than any other day. But let's say you have all the time in the evening, you're going to tell yourself, your will is telling, okay, today I have all the time. I'm going to sleep like 10 hours. You try and sleep, and your mind goes against the will. The day, whatever the will commands, the mind goes against it. So, in essence, when your will says be still, if the mind listens, now that is meditation. So, uh, how do you make your mind uh, listen to your will or obey the will? You, just like the restless child, you give a task. Okay, that they call it mantra, and so there are two schools of thought. Some people say mantra is very effective because it has a certain vibration. The sound will make you go into a your mind go into a stillness, total stillness, standstill state. But others have other ways of looking at it. In essence, you don't have to have a mantra or something holy or spiritual or has certain vibration. You just pick a word that makes no sense, hopefully not in one of those languages you speak or know. So a total meaningless sound, you repeat that, because if you choose a word that your mind is going to think about it, interpret, and your thoughts are going to go thinking about it, there goes your meditation, and you don't want that. So anything like, for instance, they say the American poet Tennyson. He was when he was a young child. He was a very weird child. He was always alone. Uh, he was not playing with the other kids. But what was he doing? He was just silently pretending like he is to himself, but he was repeating a word. What was he doing? Turns out later, many, many, many years later in his life, he became a literary canon and a top literary figure that's acknowledged in American literature. What was he doing when he was a child? He was repeating his word, Tennyson, 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 silently, because he was a weak kid and other kids don't accept him to the group. So he was sitting in a corner and repeating. So in essence, he was meditating, right? His mind was focused on doing one thing. So that's one way of doing meditating, uh, repeating a syllable. And another way is like Jiddu Krishnamurti says, observe your own thoughts. In the end, you will independently observe your thoughts. And another way is observing your breath, because breath is directly related to your thought process. The more you observe your breath, your thought will slow down. It's a great subject. I will touch, because I want to confine this to 15 minutes, and it's already been 14 minutes. I will talk to you in another video. Thank you for listening.